What happens when you mix Netflix's loose restrictions as a film studio and R.L. Stine, the Fear Street movie trilogy? That's what. I'm Chad.
And I'm Matt.
And you are listening to episode 16 of our podcast. We used to talk about this at work. So Matt, it's been a good week, man. We're coming off of a pretty good episode, I think, and I have high hopes for this one. What say you?
I have no expectations for this podcast. Either it's going to be one of the best or it's going to be one of the worst.
So rude, man. We're back with two new guests, and you can't be telling them that you feel like they're not going to do well this week. That's just rude, man.
No, I led with it's going to be one of the bursts first. I gave them the good part first.
All right. So this week we are joined by Melissa and Michael. These are two people that I found on Reddit to help us talk about this week's topic, Fear Street. They both have some familiarity with the book series. So I want them to come on and, just tell us like what the difference is and, their perspective on some things. So Melissa, why don't you tell us who you are? And then Michael, why don't you tell us who you are?
Hi guys. It's the first time to ever guest in a podcast. So anyway, I'm based in Manila. I'm in the Philippines. And I'm a writer for work. And I'm a huge pop culture fan. So maybe that's why I'm really into the movies and the books of Fear Street.
Okay, and Michael, who are you?
All right, I'm Michael. I am a horror movie book enthusiast, as well as a stage actor, director, and educator. Currently on hiatus, though. Thank you, COVID. Like I said, really big on horror movies and horror books have been since I was a kid, and that's what kind of drew me to these movies.
Okay. So Melissa, what's been going on with you? You mentioned that you're a writer at work. Can you tell us anything about that without getting too personal?
Actually, I used to be really into the media. Like I was mostly a magazine writer and editor. But since magazines have mostly folded up, I've been doing mostly online writing work.
Okay.
So it's been like right now I'm doing content for medical technology. I think it's really relevant, especially since it's a pandemic. We're in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm doing now. And then sometimes I do articles for newspapers, for magazines on the side.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anything super interesting that you've been writing lately?
It's mostly about med tech. But
so
maybe that's why
very technical.
Yeah, maybe Reddit has become my outlet. But before I was into lifestyle, like even I used to review TV shows for work.
Oh, that's okay. Well, yeah. You both of you are two good people to be on this episode since you've got experience reviewing things. Melissa, how long have you been writing?
I guess you can say professionally since I was in high school. So that's like I was like 16 when I first wrote an article for a teen magazine here in my country. And then, I don't know, it's been one magazine after the other. And then I also went into newspapers as some of my first jobs.
Okay.
So that's been more than 10 years, I think.
Okay. Also, like the moment I asked you that question, I was like, "Ooh, wait! I'm getting real close to asking her age, and that was not my intention." So I just want you to know that.
It's okay.
You said you were in Manila?
Yeah, in the Philippines.
What's lockdown like there, and what's going on with COVID?
Actually, the Delta variant has been gaining ground here in my country, so we're gonna have like a much stricter lockdown starting August 6th.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I know. So like I'm not sure if the public transportation will be cut off. Like you can only go out for essentials, for groceries, if you have a hospital appointment. Like it's gonna be that strict again. So how about you guys? How's the situation over there?
Well, me, I'm in Japan. So right now, Well, I'm in Nagasaki, which is in like the southern part of Japan. So we're doing a little bit better than what's going on in Tokyo and that stuff. So it's just like you said, the for same thing here with the numbers going up. But right now, the country's main concern is they just got to get through with these Olympics the best way possible, and then address the situation after that. So I think that's what their main focus is get through the Olympics.
So I am in Missouri, and last I saw, we were the COVID hotspot of the U.S. So the don't shake your head, Matt. You're from here. So the part
loosely, loosely now.
So the part
I
of
don't
Missouri,
say I'm from there now.
the part of Missouri I'm in, our local leaders have put out a mask mandate, and our governor and everybody else is trying to get that taken away because we believe in freedom, and it should be your choice if you want to get COVID out here, you know.
Are you guys vaccinated?
Hi, Matt and I are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We can't speak for
I
Michael.
am too.
Okay.
I am too.
I am also.
Okay. What's COVID going
Wait,
on?
I shouldn't have said yes. I should have been like, nah. We don't. They gonna put a chip in me, and you know how that is. And I seen this video on YouTube where this lady had magnets sticking to her body. See, the man wants to do that to you. I should have been like the conspiracy person.
Michael, what's COVID like in your part of the world?
So I'm in Washington State. So one of the first places in the US that had like one of the first outbreaks. We opened up the state in late June, but now that Delta is around, they haven't forced the mask mandate back, but they have been encouraging that even if you're vaccinated, to go ahead and do it. But of course, we do have that same kind of a good size of the population is vaccinated and does wear masks, and then we have that really crazy population that government conspiracies and
they are trying to be
freedom.
free, Michael. They want to be free.
They are. But as I pointed out to one of my coworkers, I feel like the ones that we know that are yelling the loudest were the ones who didn't wear a mask to begin with. So go figure.
So while you're on the horn, Michael, why don't you tell us what you've got going on right now?
Okay. Other than work, which is not that exciting right now, I have been brainstorming for a murder mystery party for a local coffee shop, actually. We just had a coffee shop open up in the area that is the community I'm in, it's the first Black Latino owned coffee shop. Nice. So they're just opening up and trying to do community outreach and reach out to the community and get the support. And so I jokingly made a comment about every time I go in your shop, I keep thinking of how I can stage something here, murder mystery party or something. And the owner reached out to me immediately and was like, yes, we need to do this. So
we need free advertising. Thank you for doing this for free.
Yes. So yeah, we're hoping to get together sometime soon to start brainstorming on how we're going to make it happen. But it's definitely something that I've been working on this week. And then I'm also been working on trying to plan for my next episode of my podcast and see how that goes.
Tell us about your podcast, Michael.
Sure. So I have a theater podcast called The Green Room, which originally started as a kind of a backstage look at how things are run in theater. It was originally catered towards teen actors, but it's kind of opened up to just the general population. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of giving an idea of the things that happen behind the scenes and giving people kind of that backstage look of all the craziness that happens and why certain things happen when you go to audition for a show and that kind of stuff.
All right. So I'm going to admit that I was a bad host because we met on Reddit and we were chatting, but I never clicked on your profile to see anything that you posted. And so when you added to the outline a couple hours ago, I was like, oh, this dude has a podcast. Huh. And so right before we started recording, I looked up your podcast. I'm like, okay, interesting topics. He's got a trailer. All right, let me get a feel for what's going on here. And then it said that the trailer for your podcast is 37 minutes long. And I'm like, this is an episode, man.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a goof. Yeah. Haven't really done like the official trailer yet. So it's been linking to one of the episodes. So it's one really extended trailer. Let me tell you, it's the full episode.
So how long have you been in theater?
So I've been doing theater for over 20 years. I've been doing it since I was around 11 or 12 years old.
Okay.
Did it as a kid, mostly acting. And then once I got out of high school, I started focusing a little more on directing and teaching. Did a summer camp, and the person who used to do the drama department for the summer camp eventually moved, and she was like, "You need to take over." And at that point, it just my directing teaching career kind of started.
So, Matt, what's been going on, man? Like typhoon season, you over here texting me before we started talking about, oh man, my power might go out. Like, what's going on, man? Are you safe?
I mean, it's typhoon season, so you never know what's gonna happen. So no, it was storming hard, and you know where I live at, I'm right by the ocean.
Yeah.
And the power was the signal was out for the TV, so I didn't know if we was gonna do it. But right now it's clear. But so it's gonna be like this for the next couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks for typhoon season. And it's just something that it's got to deal with. Because last year was the first time I had to deal with the typhoon when a typhoon came, and it was like you see how they do in like Florida, where they like board up walls and everything. So we had to put tape on the windows for like just in case it breaks and stuff. We had to sleep in our hallway because that's how loud the wind and the rain was. Because you know that was the only place we can do that was big enough for all of us to sleep, as far as with no windows or anything else like that.
So speaking of water, my daughter, she's a little bit over 1 years old now. And the other day I gave her a bath for the first time. Normally my wife and I, and, you know, I'll like hold her, you know, just make sure she doesn't like try and drown herself while, you know, my wife cleans her. But, you
Oh,
know,
I thought you was gonna say that was your first time giving her a bath because you was on that Ashton Kutcher type of thing.
what you mean? What's he on?
Well, nah, him and
Mila
Miley Kunis
Kunis?
said that they don't give their kids baths only when they're dirty, visibly dirty.
That's gross. I
I
mean,
thought you was on that celebrity type of stuff.
technically that's how it works because like almost every day she comes home from daycare, she's just covered in food because it's like she doesn't. Oh, okay. You don't use your hands to eat, huh? You use your whole face and your hair. That's how you eat food. What are we doing here? So yeah, so it went better than I thought it would, but there were many times where she's like, okay, dad, so I should dunk my whole face in this water, right? That's what we're doing right now. I need to kill myself. Like, what are stop? Like, but yeah, that it went well. And also so I was feeding her dinner, and it's like every now and again she'll do this weird thing where she kind of like stares behind me, and I'm like, and I turn, I'm like, there's nothing there, and I'm like, it always reminds me of like a horror movie where like, okay, this child can see this creature creeping up on me, but I can't. Like, it's just like she's so fixated with something behind me, and I'm like, what are you looking at?
Do you believe in ghosts and stuff? Have we ever talked about this?
We haven't. I mean, I guess this is a kind of a good episode to talk about this, and we can expand it to everybody. I honestly would like to think that there is more out there than we can perceive. So I'm not saying I don't believe in ghosts, but I'm not saying that if there's some spooky stuff happening, I'm not going to say, oh, no, that can't be ghosts. I wouldn't be that guy in the movie.
I'm all in on ghosts.
Okay.
All in. Um, when I was here in Japan before, when I was stationed here, we had an apartment, and it was just me and my other friend. And when he had duty, for people don't know, duty is when you have to stay on the ship. You can't go out to your home or whatever. So it was just us two, and we live in a small Japanese apartment. So it's no bigger than like a US style living room, basically. So it's small, you know where things there. So I know 100% he has duty today. It's just me. So I'm in my room and I hear like a plastic bag rustling. So then I open up the door, ain't nothing there. Close the door, I hear the bag rustling. I open the door, ain't nobody there. I'm walking around, everything's good. So I go back into my room. Third time I hear the bag rustling. I'm about to just leave it be. I've seen enough horror movies. Ain't no need for me to go check. Whatever's out there is gonna be out there. So
And
then, go ahead.
You didn't think you were being pranked?
By who? Who else is there?
You didn't have other friends?
No, at this time I knew one of it's just me. It's because
No, not roommates, friends. Friends
no.
they're like, oh,
It's
okay.
just I 100%. It's just me. So the next time that I had duty and my friend was there, same thing happened to him. So my girlfriend at the time, wife now, she brought one of her friends over to our apartment a couple weeks later. First time she's ever been there. And right before she was about to walk through, she stopped and she said something about how bad energy, ghost type of thing. Like she felt it before she came in.
Okay.
So before she would come in, she poured like salt on the like outside of the front door area. And I guess that's supposed to help protect from ghosts and stuff.
I mean, have you never seen an episode of Supernatural?
No.
Okay.
Is that so? That's a thing.
It's all there, all 15 seasons. It's all there.
Oh. So, but yeah, so then after that, no more bag rustling.
Okay. Michael, what's your take on ghosts?
I am definitely a believer as well. I grew up in a Latino household as well as on the Mexican-Texas border. So down there, like ghosts and that kind of stuff it wasn't a does it exist? It does exist kind of thing. And I've had some weird things. I mean, I had a similar experience as well where after I moved out of Texas, I moved to California and I was living in an apartment down there. And you would hear noises when you were by yourself in the apartment, like doors opening or the sliding glass door opening. And then you would go check and either a cabinet was open or you would hear the noise and then you'd go and there wouldn't be anything moved. So you would just kind of question it for a while. And there was one day where I was home alone and I kept hearing kind of the same thing, like a rustling sound from the kitchen area. And I was kind of hesitant to go in. And then finally there was just this like boom. And so I went into the kitchen and the trash can was just in the middle of the kitchen, turned over, and there was just trash everywhere. And it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm going to nope out of here. Not going to deal with this right now. Like, obviously something's pissed off at me or it's just annoyed that I wasn't paying attention. And I'm just going to be like, okay, you got me. I'm spooked. Okay, moving on now. Like, nope, not dealing with this.
Okay, well, all right. Melissa, what is your take on ghosts?
I haven't personally had my own ghost experience.
See, this side of the room was like, I don't know about all that.
No, we're actually in my country, our culture is really into it, but personally, I think it's a matter of choice. I actually had like Spirit Quester books before. Like there's an organized group here, they're called the Spirit Questers. They go to for example, there's a crime scene. They go there, they try to talk to spirits. I think they're actually legit because some of my teachers from college were part of them. So like they've had experiences with spirit portals, with with really communicating with spirits who were murdered or who were part of like or who were victimized during crimes.
Okay.
Or they tried to help some spirits move on. So I think I was reading some of their books, and I think from what I gathered from there, all of us have the ability to see or feel the paranormal. It's just a matter of choice. And for me personally, I'm not brave enough to
right
to face that, right? So like if I have enough stress in my real life. But I have some relatives, like even when they travel around the world, they see things, or for example, they go to funerals.
Mm-hmm.
Like they saw my grandmother when she passed away, things like that. But me personally, I try not to, and I haven't had.
No, you saying that reminded me, like my mom's always telling me about like how she has dreams about deceased relatives that tell her like very relevant things that she should not know. So I mean, like I said, I'm not totally against like ghosts. I just haven't had any experiences to make me personally believe, but it's not out the question for me.
True. Same with me.
Thinking about the whole death thing, when I first moved to Japan, we were staying with my wife's parents. Oh, my wife is Japanese. and her parents, and the room that her grandmother used to sleep in, we were staying in that room. And have you ever experienced this where like you're sleeping and you're trying to wake up, but you can't because there's something on top of your chest and you can't move?
Yeah, like sleep paralysis.
Yes, I was getting that for like every night for like a week, and I couldn't explain it to where like, and the wife is next to me and she can like feel like I'm moving, and like she had to like literally wake up because like I'm trying to move, but it's like, and I was thinking that it was something about her grandmother being in this room or something like that, but like what is the reason for what's the specific reason for sleep paralysis? Because I know I've heard different stuff like a medical thing, this is why it happens, but also heard like a spiritual thing where like I forget the type of word, but it's like there's a ghost or a woman on your chest for like that's the reason why you can't move or something like that. So, but I just remember like that was a room that her grandmother slept in and everything, and that was the only time I've ever experienced that in my life was when we slept in that room.
Like I know scientifically, I think I've read that it's pretty much when you wake up, like your body wakes up before your brain's fully woken up. And so you're still in a kind of a semi dream state. But I do know like traditionally in like spiritual terms, I think they used to call it back in the day in some cultures, the old hag syndrome, because it was the idea that there was
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that demonic spirit like sitting on your chest, just holding you down and kind of preventing you from breathing and waking up.
So now we're going to transition to the movie portion of this week's episode, and we will be talking about Fear Street 1994, 1978, and 1666.
Hello?
Still alive.
Who is this?
It's happening again.
Shadyside, a history of horror has earned it the nickname Killer Capital USA.
These massacres happen in Shadyside over and over.
You were the only person who survived. How do we end this?
You have to go back to where it all started.
If they want a witch.
Witches! Witches!
I will curse this town. Forever.
It's been 3 centuries. It stops here. It stops with us.
This series is essentially the story of Sarah Fear and the repercussions of the way in which she died. In the town of Shadyside, there is a curse by Sarah the Witch, where every few years she will possess someone and they will go on a murder spree. In the first movie, you follow Dina, her brother, and 2 friends as they think they have been marked for attack by Sarah. In reality, Dina's girlfriend Sam bled where Sarah's body was buried, and the various previous maniacs are coming to kill her. They find out that during a rampage back in 1978, there was one survivor. They try and call her while being attacked, but she doesn't answer. The way they figure out how to get around the killers coming from Sam is that they intentionally kill her and then revive her, but sadly 2 of Dina's friends die in the process. All seems well until at the end of the movie, Sam seems to have become one of the people on a murderous rampage, and Dina and her brother seek out C. Berman, aka Ziggy, the survivor back in 1978. She tells a story about how she was at a summer camp and she fell for who would later become the sheriff of Sunnyside and the massacre that occurred. Her sister ended up dying, and they discovered where Sarah's hand was buried, which is not with her whole body. Legend says if you put her hand back with her body, the curse will be broken. At the end of the second movie, Dina returns the hand with the body. Her nose bleeds on the Sarah's remains, and she has a flashback to 1666. In that flashback, we learn that Sarah was a lesbian. Someone saw her kissing another woman and brings it up to the town, and they ostracize her. At the same time, the crops start dying, so they blame her for it. Eventually, the priest in the town becomes the first person to go on a murderous rampage and kills 12 children before being murdered himself. Sarah gets accused of being a witch, and she discovers that the person that put a curse on the town is the descendant of the sheriff in 1994. It turns out members of his family have been choosing people to become possessed, and go on murder sprees to bring good fortune to their family. In the present day, Sarah, her brother, Ziggy, and the janitor of the local mall end up killing the chef and breaking the curse. But sadly, the book that gives instructions on how to perform the ritual was taken in the end credit scene. Melissa, please tell us your thoughts on these movies.
Personally, I really like them. Like, I'm obsessed right now. Actually had low expectations. Like, I was thinking it might be generic or it might not live up to the books because I was a huge fan of the books as a child. So I was, but now seeing all three, how they're interconnected, I I thought they were really great. Like, they were slashers, but at the same time they gave important messages on inclusivity. Even it's cheesy, but there's the love message there. And I thought story wise, like the themes from the books were present. Like there was the witchcraft, there was the possession, there was the evil spirit. It can't be an R.L. Stein book if there's no possession or if there's no evil spirit. So I think those themes are there, but I think they were reinvented it in a very clever way. I I do have my nitpicks as a reader though, because I know it's not perfect. And there were some inconsistencies with the stories from the books. And I felt that there were stories from the books that could have been, since they're inconsistent with the movies, I wonder if they're ever gonna do those stories from the books at all.
Right.
So I guess that's my nitpick. But overall, I think in terms of story, in terms of even the stars they casted and the chemistry of the cast with one another, and even when it came to the final reveal, even if that broke my heart,
The final reveal that the sheriff was a bad guy.
yeah, because I was rooting for Ziggy and Nick.
Yeah.
In the second movie, like I really found Sadie and Ted, like I think they really had great chemistry together. So they were my ship. So, so when I found out that, although I think there were some people guessing it in comments that it was the goods all along, but I was like hoping that maybe if it was a good, like it would be Will, his brother, but there wasn't enough character development for Will. In the second
he
movie,
was in like one scene in the first movie.
Like he was howling for most of his part, so it can't be him. So although I was really hoping that Nick would redeem himself to Ziggy in the third one.
Right.
But overall, I think they really made us a solid story, and I think it was ambitious that it's a trilogy and that they shot it in one go. But I think the director Lee Janiak, she made it work. Like she really made it work. But story-wise, I was thinking there could be some plot loopholes, like when it came to the curse, what really happened, and like why did they put the blood on themselves instead of like putting it on the jacket or something that wouldn't make the killers like directly go after them. I think it was in the first movie, like in the grocery. I think the first movie had the most loopholes, if ever.
No, I agree with that. Like when they were in the grocery store and the boy that wasn't the brother, he's like, I'm just gonna put this blood on my chest. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
I know. Like, I think they were smarter, of course, in the third one. Like they already knew how it worked. So at least I think Ziggy was the one who had like blood in her jacket. So she was able to throw it to the floor. So at least the killers wouldn't go after her.
Right.
But she could get that blood if she needed it, just by putting on the jacket. But in the grocery, they made a lot of mistakes. And actually, I also read somewhere that they could have made Sam take the pills. They had the ambulance, right? So they could have made Sam take the pills. Well, they were inside the ambulance. Like they could have been moving inside that vehicle, so the killers couldn't go after them.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Actually, I don't know. I think a lot of people share the same sentiment that the first one was the weakest, even character-wise. Like, I had a hard time relating or maybe liking Dina at first because I thought she was toxic to Sam. I'm sorry.
No, like, there's nothing to be sorry about. Like, I agree with you. It's like, okay, like it's 1994. You should want to be who you are, but you can't make somebody be out. You just can't. And so if she wasn't ready to like let the world know that, she liked girls, don't push her. Don't be upset at her about that. But I mean, yeah.
And Dina begrudged her for moving away, like 30 minutes away. Like it was the end of the world. And then it was also another factor that Dina was the one who broke up with her in the first place.
Right.
Okay. I was gonna say this for my rant, but I have to jump in right here. So that part right there was so stupid to me because they made her seem like she was a bad guy, but when she explained to her how she broke up with her, then she moved, and she was like, well, I'm only 30 minutes away. And I'm like, wait, that means you didn't really want to be in this relationship that if you broke up with her and she's only 30 minutes away, why are you acting like this?
Because
like she moved across the country or something like that.
Because she's a teenager, okay? Hormones.
Yeah, it's an angsty teenager. Right. I think they could have written Dina better for me, like so that audiences could root for her. Although I think she had character development in the last movie, but in the first one, I think it pissed a lot of people off that she was willing to sacrifice her brother, her friends, for her girlfriend.
Everybody could die. As long as I can get this girl that don't want me.
Just not Sam. So, and in the second movie, I think the Berman sisters were more endearing because it was a total opposite for Cindy. Like she literally killed her boyfriend to save her sister. Right. And to save her friend. So I thought that was more endearing. And even if Cindy was so uptight at first, like she had good character development later on.
And she had reason for being the way that she was too.
Who?
Cindy.
She had because of her family problems.
Yeah, like she had family issues and she wanted to leave that town. So she's like, I feel like the best way to get out this town is just stick to the books and like just keep my head down and stay out of trouble, and I can just get out of this town and have a better life for myself. So I understood that.
Yeah, just a smart plan instead of staying there or not doing anything about it.
Did you have any other thoughts?
What else? I think well, it was a good fine. It was a good twist that it was Nick all along and his family. Fine, even if it's hard not to fall for him in the second movie. They made him so likable. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I think it was a good twist, although it might have been too cleanly done in the third part, because in the second movie he had like some conflict within himself. I don't really want to do this, blah blah blah. He was saying something like that to Ziggy. And then in the third movie, it was like they made him into this one-dimensional caricature evil character that, just because Dina found out, it suddenly makes the 360. And I thought that was, I don't know, maybe because they had lack of time. They had to close the trilogy as cleanly as possible. And also I also thought that he should have had a longer confrontation with Ziggy. Like there was a missed opportunity there. Like they should have had, I don't know, an exchange of words or something, because he really betrayed her in 1978, and that was kind of sick of him to lie, and
and then like he's been hanging around all this time, and like he left that note for her, I think in the first movie.
Yeah,
about it's happening again, but like it was happening. You're causing this.
Yeah, I think so people interpreted it as he was trying to reinforce his cover. And maybe in a way, maybe he was also trying to quote unquote protect her, so she wouldn't go out of her house at all. Because it was happening again. But in the third movie, like some people were saying, maybe it would have been more powerful if Ziggy was the one who killed Nick, not Dina.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, because they were the one with the connection, like the connection really. So it would be more, I don't know, more ironic, more painful if she was the one who stabbed him in the end. Yeah. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts for now.
Michael, what's up, man?
I kind of had the same sentiment when I first going into the movies. Like I was a fan growing up, R.L. Stine in general and the books. So I had been waiting. I mean, I remember being a teenager and a preteen and being like, if I could make a Fear Street movie, this is what it would be. And like coming up with my own ideas. So I was definitely really excited when they announced that the movies were going to be made, but at the same time I was a little hesitant because, like Melissa said, I was kind of like going in with little expectations, like just expecting the worst, and I was pleasantly surprised as well. I fell in love with the movies. I definitely feel that it was the nice mix of that preteen young adult horror series brought to life, but still balancing out the horror and the gore and the adult situations, which I really liked. It was like a weird hybrid of preteen plus adult horror movies, which I really liked. And I agree that there was a lot of dumb elements or like plot holes in the movie, but part of me kind of liked it because it was that preteen logic. Like sometimes in some of R.L. Stein's books, people would do the dumbest things or wouldn't realize what was right in front of their eyes, and it was like, how are you so dumb? But at the same time, it's like, oh, you're 14. Okay, I'll forgive you for being so dumb, because I remember being 14 and some of the things I believed or did were kind of, questionable. So I definitely liked that they were able to capture that kind of goofiness of the books where, of course it's witchcraft, of course, it's this, and I really enjoyed that. And kind of going on the conversation of Sam and Dina, because I think that's one of those things that I've noticed a lot of fans and non-fans of the movies have talked about, is kind of their relationship and how toxic they were in the start. And I agree and I disagree when it comes to that. Because I definitely feel like they had the disadvantage with them, because when we first meet Sam and Dina, it's like the worst possible time in a relationship to meet them. It's the end of the relationship.
Right,
so,
right.
There is that hostility, there's the resentment. And sometimes during a breakup, you say things that you don't really mean, but you're so angry, you say it anyways, kind of like her whole, I hope you die, all those kinds of like, here's your stuff, go away. You moved 30 minutes away. How dare you? But at the same time, I kind of forgave it because I'm like, I remember being that young. Yeah. And
I mean,
like
I'm 34 years old and I still act that way.
Yeah. I'm 38 and I still do the same. But yeah, like I kind of understood why people hated them, because it was like the worst possible time to meet them. And I also feel like I talked to a lot of people on Reddit who pretty much said that, they didn't really start to care for them until the third movie. And it was as a result of the whole Sarah Hannah plot line. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really interesting, because I feel like, even though I'll go into this, I kind of identified with Sam and Dina despite their toxic behavior, I agreed that I didn't really care about them until the end. And I think it was an interesting, from a directing standpoint, since I do directing as well, that I thought it was a very interesting decision to have the same actors who played Sam and Dina play Sarah and Hannah. And I feel like part of the reason was they did want to make us care for them eventually. And they used that relationship to kind of make us care about Sam and Dina by using the same actors. Because I love with Sarah and Hannah, we meet them at the best possible point, falling in love. And so we see them kind of form this relationship that we know is doomed from the start, because we know things are not going to go well. We know something's going to happen to Sarah. We know she's eventually going to be hung. And so we know it's not going to end well. So I felt like by using the same actors, when that relationship doesn't happen, now we're rooting for Sam and Dina, because now we're like, okay, Sarah and Hannah weren't able to have their happy ending. They weren't able to kiss in daylight. They weren't able to do all these things. They could possibly do it. So now we have to root for them. Now we want them to win and defeat the evil, because they're going to be the happy ending to the love story that couldn't have a happy ending. So I thought I feel like it was a conscious decision, but at the same time, it was still, as someone watching the movie, it was kind of like, oh man, like they are kind of toxic at the start. Like, how am I going to root for them? Like,
that's a good point that you made, because when I started, now I have no reference to the books or anything, so I just went in cold and I watched it, and I was wondering why they put the same actors in for that time, But now what you just said, okay, that does make sense, because just like everybody says, didn't really care for the relationship, but now since you have them fighting for it, then they actually get the relationship. No, exactly what you said. That makes complete sense to me now, is why they did it. Yeah, you're right.
So I never thought about that either, Michael. Like I do like that aspect of it, but I was saving this for my part. But I feel like they wasted every other actor that they had come back from the first two parts to play in 1666.
Yeah,
I definitely agree. Like I feel like it was an artistic decision to kind of like, oh, see how. And I know the director did mention it in one interview I saw where she talked about echoes, where it was this idea that certain moments we would see in all three films, something like echoing from 1666. So we see a different character in the same position, or, the same actor playing, an ancestor or something. I thought it was interesting, but I agree. I feel like it was kind of just like this conceit, like we're going to use this concept, but I do feel like they were kind of wasted as well in a sense, because they didn't have enough time with 1666 to really develop the idea, because I feel like we started it, we got the story, and then it was like, boom, 1994, part 2. And it's like, oh, but it's called 1666. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting, but I do feel like it came with its, it had its pros, but it also had its cons.
Mm-hmm.
And I will definitely, like, going back to like the toxic Sam and Dina stuff. I was talking to somebody else in one of the Reddit threads who we were talking about how we were still able to identify with Dina and with Cindy, especially in 78, because I know a lot of people really love Ziggy, and I agree. Like, I love Ziggy. She was a badass.
Yeah, same.
I would have had the massive crush on her when I was like a kid, because I was like, yeah, she's so fiery and stick the finger to the man.
The actress is endearing.
Yeah, like she's just so good. But I was able to identify with Cindy more, and I was trying to figure out, like, why do I identify with these characters? And one of the people that I was talking with in the thread was talking about how, like, they identified with Cindy because they grew up in this small, like, socially, sexually repressed town, and they identified with this person who was like doing everything they possibly could to get away from this black hole, and how, like, they understood the idea of, like, dressing up beyond your wealth level and trying to play this part because you were trying to be something else. And so she understood the struggle of, like, doing everything and kind of just being a butt about, wanting to escape, and not, everyone's telling you you're never going to escape. This is, this town's a black hole, we're all cursed, and, she just won't accept it. And I was like, you know what? I think I identify, because I was that person too. I grew up in, we were a small city, but for all intents and purposes, it was small town mentality. There was a Catholic church on every street corner instead of a Starbucks. So it was very, like, socially repressed and sexually repressed. And, it was shady side in a way where very few would escape, and a lot of the ones who did escape would eventually get sucked back in. So I was like, oh my goodness, I'm Cindy. Like, I get this drive to just get out and kind of mistreat everyone around you, because you're just like, I got to get out. I have to get out. And it's not that you really are this rude person. It's just you're so, like, fighting this struggle of trying to be something you're not, or get away from this area so you could be who you really are. And at the same time, like with Dina, I can kind of identify, because I do identify as gay, and I did grow up in a place I was very like sexually repressed, and I understood that struggle of, like, you find someone who you think is going to be your escape from shady side, and then she moves, and even though, like, I agree, like, it's 1994, you should feel free to be who you are, but at the same time, there's people who are not comfortable with their sexuality and being open about it. And so I totally understood Sam's, like, we moved, what can I do about this? And her, dating a guy. But at the same time, I understood Dina's, like, feelings, because I could see being 14 or 15 and being like, she betrayed me. Not only did she move and, we're not together anymore because I dumped her, first of all. But how dare she moved. That's why I dumped her. And then she did the ultimate betrayal. She's dating a man. Like, how dare you? And Well, like as an adult, I look back and I'm like, girl, you are toxic. You need to wake up, grow up. As a 14-year-old, I'm thinking as a 14-year-old, I'm like, I get it. Like you're not mature enough and you think it's all about you, but it's not. Like it's, you can't hold this against Sam for escaping. Like her family moved, they're starting a new life. It's not her fault. Don't hate on her. Just keep doing, like you said, keep doing what you're doing, stay out of trouble, and eventually you're going to get out too. But I understood the idea that at that time she's like, no, I can't, I hate the world, I'm going to go listen to the Pixies and the Cranberries and cry in my bedroom.
The greatest hits of the 1990s.
Yeah. Some Celine Dion. Like I get it. But I did also want to touch on the whole Nick thing, because I thought the same thing. Like I really liked young Nick Good in 78. And then, we get to 1666 and suddenly he's like, I'm the evil one. And like, I kind of like that, he is just kind of evil. But I also did like that there were those moments of humanity in the second one. Where you do want them to have a happy ending, and you just don't get it. And like one thing I'll say, like part of me wonders if that was also a conscious decision where we meet Nick in 78, but we're meeting Nick through Ziggy's point of view, where we're seeing what she believes about Nick, right. And it's
what she
perfect
wanted to see.
She wanted to see.
He reads Stephen King, and he's so nice.
He's so nice and he's cute.
He was the knight in shining armor to her.
Exactly. And then we see him in 1666, and suddenly it's like, oh, he's not a good guy. He's not good as evil. But it makes you kind of rethink everything you saw in 78. And like, there were certain things that I questioned too, like, well, why did he leave adult Ziggy the note like it's happening again? Like you said, like, you're the one doing this. Like, of course it's happening again, but why are you warning her? And part of me wonders, and this is what kind of makes him such a good villain, if it was him kind of gaslighting her. Because like part of me wonders, like, we meet him in 78 and we think they're going to have this great friendship, but Ziggy makes it clear at the end of 78 that she wasn't able to see him since that night. And it's like, oh, well, you would think they would keep in touch or something, but she talks about how, like, because he had his destiny to fulfill and he was going to become sheriff, and he didn't say like, this is what happened, it was the witch, he didn't cover for her or anything. I was like, well, maybe that's the reason why they fell apart. But then part of me wonders if, like, we see Ziggy as an adult and she has all these clocks and she's paranoid, and you just give this illusion of like, she's really messed up since 78. And it's like, well, why hasn't he reached out to her? Like, even if she's like, I can't see you anymore, has he made an effort to reach out? And it made me question if maybe like it's happening again wasn't to be like, I'm warning you, but I want to mess with your head even more, because you're the only one who has come close to reuniting Sarah's hand in her body, and you could have put her into this curse, and now it's happening again. Like, I don't know if someone's gonna, come to you, or you're gonna be like, this is my chance to, end the curse because of my sister. I'm gonna do what we couldn't do in 78. Right. And so if his whole note was to be like, I'm gonna give her this note that it's happening again, and hopefully it's gonna mess with her, and she's gonna stay inside and just stay away, because these meddling kids are, it's gone beyond, like, he did his murder thing, some shady siders died, but now these kids are involved and they won't stop. Like, they're trying to put an end to this. Right. And so he's probably thinking, oh crap, they came so close in 78. This can't happen again. Let me mess with Ziggy's mind. Which I think kind of makes him like, he's human, but kind of evil.
Okay, so this is editing Chad and Matt here. How does it feel to be editing, Matt?
I don't like it.
So we realized that we gave you guys way too much episode, and it's too good to actually cut. Just a little spoilers, we get into like racism and keeping women down. It is a very illuminating conversation.
Siblings murdering each other, it's all in there.
It took a hard pivot, but as a result, you guys don't get to hear that right now. We're gonna actually put this up in as a part 2. So this is episode 16. So this, as you saw, this is listed as episode 16A, and in a couple of days, episode 16B will be up.
Listen to both.
Yes, they're one piece, just like the Fear Street movies. You can't just mix and match. It's all one thing.
We doing this for y'all. It will be a lot easier if we would have just put this out, been done. But we know y'all have short attention spans. We put in the work, y'all put in the work, and listen to both episodes.
You won't regret it. Michael, why don't you plug your podcast real quick?
Sure. So my podcast is called The Green Room Chats. You can find it at anchor.fm/The Green Room Chat. And it's all about theater. Give it a listen, but obviously don't listen to the trailer because it's too long.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link for that in the show notes. And Melissa, did you have anything you wanted to promote? And it's okay if you don't.
Not at this moment. Thanks, though.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Please rate, like, and review our podcast on your platform of choice. If you have any feedback, please email us at weusedtotalkpod@gmail.com. Like our Facebook page, We Used to Talk About This at Work, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at We Used to Talk Pod.
And the way the news goes.